more hormone talk, and we might even get into more insulin resistance talk too. But I know a lot of people, I know even not only just friends, families, and clients, but they want to start looking at, they're in their 30s, they want to start looking at their hormones. They think they have low testosterone, they're overweight, all these kind of conversations. I know you've mentioned this plenty of times where you've said serum testosterone, it doesn't really tell much of a full story. So where do people fall short when actually looking, let's go men just for right now, where do they fall short when looking at their hormones? And where do you like to look specifically to really get a better understanding of the story?
So beyond biofeedback, because if you're tired, lethargic, can't lose weight, poor thyroidal functioning, like those are all the classical symptoms.
Yeah.
But in terms of blood work, I think the two biggest mistakes are how SHBG is seen and how free testosterone is seen. And I know this kind of goes against how most people see things. And I always ask people, why? So free testosterone means what? Testosterone freely floating blood plasma. So if it's freely floating, where does that mean? It's not in the cell making nuclear changes. So I always saw that, and I always bring that up to physicians or whoever, and everyone goes, that's right, but no one has an answer. I don't have the answer either. But for me, I never thought free testosterone really mattered, right? Because if it's floating around free, it's not actually binding and doing anything. So instead, I wanted to make sure the pool of testosterone was enough. So look more at total levels and look at what SHBG is doing. Because SHBG is not a decay mechanism, it's a transportation factor. So it's pulling your hormones and translocating them into the nucleus. You have the dimer formation with androgen receptors and heat shock proteins getting ejected and things like that. But to me, the SHBG always made more sense. So the ranges on blood work, I don't even know what reference ranges are these days, but I personally like about 40 to 60, because if you're below 40, it's happening too fast. And then that's the person has to microdose their testosterone because you're just moving and dismantling and cleaving the enzyme so quickly. Whereas if it's 60 plus or people like 150 or whatever, it's so slow. Those people could take like one shot a week and skip a second week and a third week and never notice the difference. So we don't want it too slow or too fast. We like it moving enough. So to me, I prefer to look more at total testosterone and then SHBG and then infer a lot from there based on biofeedback.
Beautiful. Smart. And do you ever find a difference between clients where testosterone can be lower, but they still don't have low T symptoms? Do you find there's like a difference between all that?
Literally everyone in the NFL. Like almost every single professional athlete I've ever worked with, probably 90% or 95, it's a crazy high number. They all have 200, 250, 400 nanograms per deciliter, like not high levels at all. Again, we don't use obviously HRT, TT, no androgens. That's old technology, but still those guys are operating at such a different level genetically that their testosterone doesn't have to be high. Now, they'd feel better if they raised it, right? So the Testalutins of the world and naturopaths do come in to help that, but they're still maybe pushing 500, like 600 nanograms per deciliter. It's not a lot. So there's also that misconception where we think total testosterone really equates to more muscle tissue, more fat loss, better everything. Like for me personally, I've been on nandrolone as my HRT now since 2020, and I've gotten healthier, I've gotten better, I've only improved, but that's after using my HRT as testosterone only for years and only getting negative side effects. So my total testosterone's 100, right? But I have enough of an androgen load covered with the nandrolone that I'm getting the same benefits. Now, again, that's me. That's not everyone. I'm not trying to be the person who's like, oh, only do nandrolone. But for certain people like me that only respond poorly to that, like nandrolone is the next option. And so it's more painting that picture of a total testosterone doesn't really quite mean that much, because you could also do the old equations, right? Where you're supposed to get a 3 to 5x return on your dose. So if you did 100 milligrams, it should be like 300 to 500 improvements in terms of nanograms per deciliter. And that doesn't always happen. So then it's kind of like, where are you at? And that's where you need the blood work and the biofeedback. Because if you're feeling good, maybe it's something to keep an eye on and fortify a little bit, but I don't think there's always a need to go that next step of HRT, unless if you absolutely need to do that.
And that's interesting, because I think there's a lot of people chasing HRT for those feelings that they have because they don't know or understand anything any better. So when you have a patient who is, or a client coming to you and they think it's because of this, how do you then, maybe which path do you tend to go? Do you tend to go more mitochondria? Where do you then switch their gears?
Threefold. We'll still cover some baseline androgen axis problems, then mitochondria, and usually inflammation over oxidation levels. Usually those three things will cover it. Now, I have one guy in particular now, high functioning individual, owns multiple businesses, does all these crazy marathons and everything. We've done the Testosterone, the Tunga Ali, Sustange. We've tried that. We've gone the Kispeptin, HCG route. We've done that. Testosterone levels have barely gone up. that's the person. Keep in mind, we've done this for 6 months or 12 months. We worked together for a while now, and he's still not there. So that's the person that's like, hey, we probably need to go with HRT, TRT. That's usually the route we would go through a good trial and error process while you're fixing mitochondria, while you're cleaning up any kind of oxidative spillover, because almost everyone has oxidation these days.